Welcome to episode 375 of Personal Development Mastery Podcast. If you are someone who is on a journey of personal growth, but most people around you prefer to settle, then today's episode is for you. During the interviews I did last year, I asked some of my guests a specific question that was put to me by one of the listeners, Alice. Thank you very much, by the way, for this question, Alice. In today's episode, you will hear 5 of the previous podcast guests answer that question. And the question I asked my guest was, what would you say to someone who wants to grow, but most of the people around them or their peers have quite a fixed mindset, preferring to settle rather than grow? These answers were not published in the respective episodes, so this is the very first time that they are being shared. You can read more about each of the 5 guests in the show notes. So let's dive right in.
I would say 2 things. It's when we get into personal development, we want all of our family and our loved ones to be part of our journey. And most people are not ready to grow. Let it be okay that they are where they are. And also let it be okay that you are where you are. Don't make anybody wrong. And by the way, my husband was the same way. I wanted to grow. He didn't. But instead of trying to pull him along like a stubborn mule, I just let him have his journey, but I also stopped denying my journey and my desire to grow. So he was okay and he was safe where he was, and I was safe and I was okay where I was. And do you know what was so great about that? Is that as he saw me getting happier and happier without trying to make him be anything other than he was, he followed me and he wanted to grow as well.
It is really important to understand that it is your journey and everybody is different, but everybody is binded by their fears. So usually they put on their limitations on you because of the traumas or the fears or the things they went through in their childhood or they went through in their lifetime or their cultures. So in these things, I always remind myself to ground like a tree, ground to this nature, ground to this world, and put a gentle protection around you because you don't need to take everyone's energy. And always just remember that opinions are just coming through everyone's own struggles. So they are very loaded. This is why I always say, if you need opinion, go to an expert. If you need friends, just have fun. You don't need their opinion. So this is what I always say.
What would you say to someone who wants to grow, but most of the people around them have a fixed mindset, preferring to settle rather than grow?
It's a tough question, and I'll give 2 answers here. If you have the ability to leave that environment, it seems obvious, and I know you probably love them. And if you truly love them, the best thing you can do is go out there and move away and go out and succeed. That's the best thing you can do. Now, I get it. Sometimes you can't. You have to be around that environment. So what I like to do is I surround myself in a different environment. And what I mean is I am constantly feeding my brain with the best mindset people in the world, like Tony Robbins, Napoleon Hill. Those are you can do that in your bedroom, right? And you can fill yourself up. And I always like to say this, if you feed your mind more than you feed your body, your life's going to go in a different direction. But what you do is after you feed yourself, you have to stand guard at the gate of your mind. You have to know and anticipate that, hey, they're going to be this way. And just because they're that way doesn't mean they're bad people. They're doing the best they can with the resources they have. Their intention is pure as they try to protect you. And I've had that happen in my own family. And if you can move, I would get out and go into another environment. If you can't, surround yourself with books, audio. When you do get out, get around people who are like you. Fill your cup as much as you can because it's much easier to protect your mind when you're full than when you're empty. And so the more you can dive into that, the better I think you'll be. So hope that helps.
One often says that your life is a reflection of the 5 people that you spend most time with. So you have to, it's important to make a conscious choice of what you immerse yourself in. And if you're strongly linked to someone, but that person drains you and doesn't help you in your growth, or then you can decide to spend less time with that person. If you want to stay connected, it isn't always, never see that person again or radical, but it's being conscientious with what your time is and where you put your energy is, and fundamentally understand that the opinions and perspectives of other people do not define you. And this is absolutely crucial. The only person in the world that defines you is yourself.
One of the things I found that's very, very helpful is to form a community or join a community of like-minded people. They say that you can't accomplish more than the four people that you spend the most time with. And so this doesn't mean to abandon friends, but it does mean that to have to have a community with people that are wanting the same things that you're wanting and are pursuing them will really help. And to be, and this isn't, again, to say that we forsake our friends or family or whatever, but to be in community is very important. This is one of the reasons why the Burnout Breakthrough Program has a mastermind program where once a week we do a Zoom call for a couple of hours and mainly talk about celebrations of what people are achieving, not only in terms of their businesses, but mainly in terms of personal growth. And to be in an environment like that, all fires burn brighter and hotter. Otherwise, we're not going to accomplish more than the people we spend the most time with. And so sometimes we can feel comfortable staying with old friends with a limited point of view, but we're never going to be, it'll be very difficult anyway to break through that mindset.
I hope you found something insightful in these 5 answers and something you can implement. In order of appearance, the 5 guests that you heard were Allyson Chavez, Gul Sonmez, Joe Moffett, Lucia Montantaro, and Scott Anderson. You can read more about each of these 5 guests in the show notes. One last thing before I close this episode today is an invitation to you who are listening. I invite you to find me on social media and send me a message. I'd love to connect with you and hear your thoughts on how the podcast can be more useful to you. Or you can tell me a particular topic you would like to hear about. I look forward to hearing from you. And until next time, stand out, don't fit in,